Now let's talk about Ethereum-based tokens, also known as ERC20 tokens. So one of the coolest things about Ethereum and other EVM-compatible blockchains is that you can create your own cryptocurrency without creating a new blockchain. So what's the difference? Well, essentially, if you think about the cryptocurrency Ethereum or Ether, that's the native cryptocurrency of the Ethereum blockchain. That's the one that you see by default when you open MetaMask, that you use to pay the network fees, okay? But then you can get all these other cryptocurrencies that are on top of Ethereum. Okay, so you have Ether, the native cryptocurrency, and then you have all these other cryptocurrencies running on top of the blockchain. So these are called tokens. And, while cryptocurrency and token is kind of used interchangeably in everyday conversation, they're technically different. Okay, a cryptocurrency technically, at least I'm kind of old school. The old school distinction is that a cryptocurrency is a native cryptocurrency of a blockchain like Ether or Bitcoin, right? That's the native cryptocurrency, the Bitcoin blockchain. And then a token is a particular cryptocurrency that lives on top of that other blockchain. And you can see an entire list of tokens here called ERC20 tokens. We'll get into that here in a second. But here are examples. All right, so USDC coin is a really popular Ethereum-based token. It's a stable coin, and that's one real big benefit of blockchain is that you can create a stable cryptocurrency whose price doesn't change. And the most common way to do this is to put that stable coin on multiple blockchains by creating tokens on those blockchains rather than creating a unique blockchain for this particular stable coin, because this stable coin isn't very useful if it's on its own blockchain in its own siloed environment by itself. All you could do is send it around from person to person. But what if you want to trade this stable coin for the cryptocurrency on top of a blockchain? Well, that's the beauty of tokens. You can put multiple tokens on a blockchain like Ethereum. You can trade them around on decentralized exchanges. You can use them in decentralized finance or DeFi to earn yield. You can borrow against them. It makes the cryptocurrencies so much more useful when you have these tokens that are put on top of other blockchains. So how do you create a token? Well, you do it with smart contracts. So essentially, you create a smart contract that implements all the functionality for the token, like the ability to send it from one account to another. The smart contract also keeps track of who owns how many tokens and, total supply. It also enforces the digital scarcity so that no more tokens can be created than should be, and, that no one can double spend their tokens and that they can only, send them from one account to another if they actually own them. So now let's talk about this ERC20. All right, so what does ERC20 mean for ERC20 tokens? Well, ERC20 is just a standard that specifies how these tokens should work. So whenever you have a vast network of different cryptocurrencies, like the ones we saw on the previous page, you want to have some sort of standard that they conform to so that they all work basically the same way or have a common interface and a common set of behavior. And there might be some slight differences in how each token works, but really what you want them to do is be compatible with your MetaMask wallet, right? So if you want to add tokens to your wallet and send them around, you want them to conform to a standard so that whatever cryptocurrency you add here, whatever token you add, will be supported, all right? And likewise, if you want to trade your cryptocurrency on a cryptocurrency exchange or use it in a DeFi application, it needs to follow some sort of standard set of guidelines so that, it's compatible. So we can see what that looks like here. You can see, and the ERC20 standard is just the official name for the standard that specifies how these tokens should work so that they're compatible with wallets, can be traded on exchanges, et cetera, et cetera. So what that means is it's a standard that specifies the interface, which really just means the types of functions that the smart contract has. Okay, you can see it must have a name function, it must have a symbol function, or it must have a total supply, it must trigger certain events, and it also must implement a certain set of behavior. So I'm actually going to open up a new page here that covers this. This is from the original EIP20. We'll talk about that here in a second. That turns into ERC20. So let's go through it. Each ERC20 must have a name, all right? And this name must get stored inside of the smart contract itself, but it also must expose a function name that you can call, which you can return the name so that you can see the name on a cryptocurrency exchange. Also the symbol, all right, like that you would see on a cryptocurrency exchange. The decimals, which specifies how many decimal places are after the zero. The total supply of all the tokens in the entire collection. It must have a function that lets you get the balance of a particular address. All right, to see, like if I were to pass my address in here, it would tell me how many tokens belong to that. All right. It lets you send tokens from one account to another. That's what this transfer function is for. All right. You tell it the address you want it to go to and how many tokens. Okay. And you'll notice inside of these functions, it also talks about the behavior that you must implement. All right. So not only does it have a transfer function, but it also has to do these things. It has to actually change the balance from one account to another whenever you call this function. And it also must trigger a transfer event, okay, so that you can log that to the blockchain. We're going to see how these events work later when we start coding out the Capstone project. We're actually going to build a complete ERC20 token from scratch. So you're going to get a deep dive into how this works, but I'm just going to give you the primer on this right now. Okay, we've also got some other things like the approval, allowance, transfer, and all that type of stuff. So we're going to get into that heavily when we start coding out the main project. But now let's talk about where ERC20 comes from. So you can see this here, EIP20. Okay, so let's talk about how these token standards come to be. Well, basically, Ethereum is a community. It's a decentralized community that develops the entire network. It develops all the standards. And so there's a process for coming up with new things. So essentially what happens is someone creates a proposal and they write a proposal that looks like this. This is one of the earliest proposals on Ethereum. So it was literally number 20. So EIP stands for Ethereum Improvement Proposal. So basically somebody wrote this proposal that says, hey, we need to have a standard for how these tokens should work. They create an EIP, they write it up, it looks like this. Then the community comes together and reviews it. And once they review it, it gets elevated to the next level, which is ERC 20. So EIP 20 to ERC 20, which stands for Ethereum Request for Comments. Okay, so after it's been proposed, it turns into an ERC. And then once it's an ERC and it gets actually, adopted, that's sort of the final phase. Okay, and then the community starts to conform to that standard. And that's how we got to ERC 20. And this is the standard that basically powers, almost all the tokens on top of the Ethereum platform and also other EVM compatible chains. And so, you can click through on that list of tokens that I showed you a minute ago and actually just kind of poke around and look at some real world ERC20 tokens, see how they work in action, like out there in the wild, and also read through the code to see how they implement the ERC20 standard. Now, I just pull up the Uniswap token or the Uni token, okay? And you can basically click over to the contract tab whenever you click on the actual smart contract page here on Etherscan. And, you can go look at the contract source code. So, that's one reason it's a smart contract is you can know that it's going to work the same way every time. It's transparent. You can audit the code yourself. And you can see that it actually implements the ERC20 standard. So it has this transfer from function that comes straight out of the ERC20 spec. It tells the address it's going from, the address it's going to, and then, the amount that's getting passed in. And you can trace through all the business logic inside of here. Same thing for, let's see here, some other ERC20 functions. Let's just keep scrolling through. You can see what happens with the transfer tokens function. Okay, let's just scroll up here. You can see the approve function. This is also an ERC20 function that lets people spend tokens on their behalf. So, the Uni token is a very complex token. You see the allowance, it's also an ERC20 token, ERC20 function. But, there's lots of other things you can do with ERC20 tokens. You can make them much more complex and have other behavior. Like it's a mintable token, so you can create tokens from scratch. You can see this mint function. It lets people vote with this delegating function, things like that. So you can have additional behavior in the ERC20 token. It just has to have those basic set of criteria provided by the ERC20 standard. And as long as it does those things, it's ERC20 compliant, and you can use it in your MetaMask wallet. You can trade it on DEXs, things like that. But you can also do a lot more like the Uniswap token does. So you can also go through and look at the transactions for the Uni token and just see what's happening here. I'll look at the non-pending transactions and let's just see what's going on here. So this is a transfer. Okay, you can see the tokens were transferred from this wallet to that wallet. for this many Uniswap tokens. All right. And there's the dollar amount. You can look through more information here. You can see the function is actually called. This is the transfer function. Okay. So this is, This is the exact function that comes out of the ERC20 spec, the transfer. This is exactly what's called whenever tokens move from one account to another. You can also see the logs inside of here. See that a transfer event was called. Okay, this is part of the ERC20 spec. It's required that a transfer event is emitted anytime tokens change hands. And you can see that it's doing all that right here. All right, so that's an overview of Ethereum-based tokens or ERC20 tokens, how they got that name and why they're important. Again, Ethereum lets you create your own cryptocurrency without creating your own blockchain with smart contracts with ERC20 tokens. And they're incredibly important because they allow you to do a lot more with, other cryptocurrencies on top of the same blockchain, like trade them, use them in DeFi, all that type of stuff. So we're going to get way more in depth on ERC20 tokens whenever we start coding out the Capstone project. I just want to give you this quick primer. And so I'll catch you in that next section whenever we get there.